Hi, my name is Trish. I'm in group 2, bullying with Nikki and Star. I'm answering my portion of the outlined questions for the transitional phase of our group. So my first question is, how do we show members the value of recognizing and dealing fully with conflict situations? Well, that happens throughout our entire program, especially during the warm-up activity. We're doing paper dolls and asking the clients to basically be abusive to these paper dolls, physically, verbally, whatever that means. And I don't know, it's kind of a good warm-up, get some blood going, have the kids even just stomp on it, scream, lash out. And then at the end of the activity, when we're done, we're going to tell the kids, now we need them to put the dolls back to the way they were, which obviously they're not going to be able to do. And then we're going to reiterate the fact that bullying can be permanent. It can really harm someone. Even verbal bullying can have long-term effects that are sometimes irreparable. So getting that message across to start was kind of good because it answers the why. Why are we doing this? And now they might get an idea, we're doing this because bullying isn't not a big deal. It is a big deal, and it can be very damaging to someone. Also, through the skill building activity, we're doing Jeopardy, and within those questions, we're going to have some things that touch on, again, some of the effects of bullying, and things like that, what can happen. And so through answering those questions, they're going to get a good idea of why we're here, why we're doing this, and why we need to deal with conflict situations in a healthy way. Because even as the bullier, there are effects and consequences for you. So, through doing the skill building activity and through the warm up, they're going to get a pretty good idea of why it's healthy and important to learn that kind of a skill. Helping the members to recognize their own patterns of defensiveness. Some of that can be dealt with through just maybe gentle confrontation. If you're noticing that your clients aren't really engaging or just kind of putting a wall up towards the activity, you might be able to say, are you uncomfortable because of the topic, or is it something else? Maybe just asking for some clarification, or just engaging the client. And also, again, through our skill building activity, there actually are questions that relate to their personal questions. So, there's no wrong answer theoretically. So one of the questions would be, what is the way that you sometimes handle yourself when you're feeling frustration? So by answering those questions, and even if the person's not answering, it's still going in the brain. They're still going to stop and think about maybe how they handle things or whatever. So it's just getting juices flowing on, what we do when we're feeling maybe threatened or angry or things like that. So that's that. Getting feedback from members. We talked, I talked with the girls in our group and how important this really is to do, because if your clients aren't responding to what you're doing, or they don't care about what you're doing, or they don't like what you're doing, no matter how much sense it makes, practical it is, it's not going to go very far. So I think it's important even at the beginning of the sessions to be checking in with clients and like, how did you feel about last week? Was there anything that you wish you would have kind of got to talk about, or how did it make you feel about the activity? Did anybody not like the activity? Why? Things like that. So getting feedback about the previous week, but also getting feedback during the cool down too, just from clients maybe about how they're feeling. How did this activity make you feel? Was there something that you didn't like about it or that you wish we would have done differently? Like if we were to do this again, what's your advice, kind of thing. So taking cues from clients can be a huge success, because as facilitators and as adults, sometimes, as much as we want to believe that we know what's fun and engaging, sometimes we don't. And they might have some really helpful tips on how to improve your program and how to really get through them in a way that's maybe a little bit more significant for them. So we made it a point to be checking with clients, asking them how they feel about the activities, asking them, again, if they could change anything, what would they change, what would they do, and making that a regular part of group is really important. Providing a model for members by dealing directly and tactfully with any challenge. This to me is the most important thing, especially with the topic of bullying. We're trying to teach kids things like emotional regulation, conflict resolution. If we can't model that stuff in group, we're undoing everything that we're trying to build in group. So I think a big part of that is just keeping your attitude in check, keeping your energy in check, making sure you're, as a facilitator, going into the group with a positive attitude, a clear mind, and really not take things a little too personally, right? Because that's an important skill with bullying. Like, sometimes it's not about you, and people might say, oh, well, I'm getting bullied, blah, 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 and sometimes it has nothing to do with you. So within the group, I think it's important to really be mindful of our actions, behavior, demeanor, the nonverbal, all of it, and make sure that we're kind of handling everything gracefully and not so reactively. So that may look like just asking more questions. If you're getting, like, maybe you're getting some resistance from a client in participating in the game, just finding creative ways to maybe draw them back in instead of trying to like butt heads with the challenger. Kind of redirecting them, rerouting the energy sometimes is really helpful and can be really quick. Like, it can be a really quick thing. And so it helps to be a creative person and be able to think on your feet in those moments. For example, if you have a kid that maybe doesn't want to participate in the group, maybe he's sitting in the back saying like, oh, this game sucks. Like, I don't want to, you might ask the person like, oh, like, well, how would you do it? Like, what would you do? Flip the script a little bit and maybe get some education from the client. Like, if they think it's so terrible, then tell me what you would change. Like, what would make it really awesome? You might also find a different role for someone who's kind of being a little challenging in the group. Maybe instead of participating in that way, you can invite them to maybe be, the Alex Trebek and be the host of the game. They can be in charge of, reading the questions out, and you could still engage them in the sense that maybe if a question's posed to somebody in the group and there's no answer, get Alex to respond and give that person a chance to respond to the question. So it's a way to kind of give someone a different role, but then they're still kind of pseudo participating. And it really doesn't create any negativity, you know, it's not escalating. It's just kind of finding a new way to meet that client's needs at the time. Like maybe they're just having a difficult time with a lot of this. So by giving them a new role, you've kind of allowed them to participate without feeling maybe as involved as everybody else, but really they are. In terms of dealing with challenges, like maybe throughout the activity, like maybe there's some issues between co-leaders, making sure that we're handling that appropriately is a huge thing, especially for covering a topic like bullying. So by keeping calm, you know, using your words wisely, just being matter of fact, like taking the emotion out of it. Maybe if there's a problem, you might say, oh, like, you know, it's too bad we're having like a challenge with this right now, but like we'll figure it out, you know, or just staying positive. I think that's one of the most important things. Like if you can't do that, then you can't teach it. So just being centered even before you start group, like making sure you're in a really good space mentally, like even if you're not in your own personal life, by kind of taking a moment to clear your own personal stuff out and really be there for these kids, because you know we only have a short period of time with them. Typically groups are maybe a few weeks, and you know, you only have that time to make an impact. And I don't know about anybody else, but like I want to make sure that I'm getting the best possible result and that my work's not for nothing. So, you know, it's important that I at least make sure on my end I'm modeling exactly the type of skills that I expect these children to be able to acquire themselves. And finally, closing the group by summarizing and giving homework. So during our cool down, we just kind of had we had set up kind of a bit of a discussion about the game. You know, again, the feedback piece, talking about how it went. Is there anything that, you know, you learned throughout the activity? Did something surprise you? You know, was any of this stuff really relatable? What really meant something to you, or what struck a chord with you? Asking questions like, you know, why do we have to do this? Just kind of keeping that at the forefront and making sure the clients are always kind of being mindful of the why. And then we wanted to talk a little bit about how, you know, sometimes people are just ignorant. Sometimes people don't have the skills. They don't know any better. Sometimes people in general don't understand the effects of bullying. They don't understand how much of a problem it is. They don't know that, you know, it can cause long-term effects and what they are. So education in this area is the foundation of being able to make a difference. So our homework for this week was to have each of the clients take a piece of information. So maybe it was one of the questions from the game board, or just something that they thought might not be a general knowledge, something that maybe they know somebody doesn't know, or something that shocked them that they learned today, and share that information with someone else. So it could be your parents, a sibling, friends, whoever. But our homework was just to take that information and share it with someone. Maybe, you know, if they notice like a conflict situation arising, you know, to be able to talk to someone and say, listen, you know, I learned in group that, you know, sometimes it's not about this, it's about something else, and we just need to be mindful of that. Whatever piece they decided to take away from it, to be able to pass that on to someone else and kind of educate other people and get that and get that out in the open, like talking about it, you know, and getting rid of the stigma. So a lot of kids face that where, you know, things aren't talked about, like they know it happens, they see it happening, but there's no real communication about it. So engaging in communication about it at home with someone of significance to them, we thought would be like a really good piece for homework for this week. So that's it for my questions. Thanks for watching.